Thank you, Elder. I'm really so happy to be here. It's just everybody that speaks, and as the event continues and continues, my heart swells because all beings, quality for all beings. And that means to me that I am truly not the last speaker, is that we'll have an opportunity at the very end of this that I would ask you to hold your applause, because it's not really me that I hope to present to you, but all those beings that are out there, inseparable from ourselves, really, inseparable from ourselves, that are speaking right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a solar-powered jukebox, and the earth is our music. 30 years ago, this sound transformed my life. I was making a long drive from Seattle, Washington, to the University of Wisconsin. I had plans of becoming a plant pathologist. I just pulled over to the side of the road, got out of the car, walked into a field, laid down to rest. The thunder rolled up the valley and rolled through me, filling parts that I had never known even existed. This was the first time that I truly listened. And I asked myself, how can I be 27 years old and have never truly listened before? I felt like I was living life incredibly wrong, and if you're going to listen, you have to be willing to change, and I did. I dropped out of graduate school and I became a bike messenger, earning $1 per delivery, and I only had one goal, and that was to become a better listener. Roughly 10,000 deliveries later, I found my one teacher, which is a binaural microphone system. An excellent teacher, 2 ears, flesh density head, replicates human hearing, but the important thing is that it has no brain. And that's the problem that I had, is I had a brain. So my whole life I was making choices between what was worth listening to and what wasn't worth listening to, and that's not listening. That's controlled impairment. But every time I listened through this teacher, the master came more messages. Can you hear? Can you hear the joy in their voices? I got to know these coyotes, a pair, over the course of the summer. I never heard them sing before or since like that. I want joy like that. They have a message, and even from something as insignificant as snow melting in the sunshine comes another message. Unedited. The more I listened, the more I heard, the more I listened. And then these messages started adding up to something really big. Earth is a solar powered jukebox. There really is, which basically means the more sunlight that strikes the surface of the earth, the louder it plays. All you need is those solar panels that are there to harvest the sun's energy and cycle it into the bioacoustic system. This is the Amazon. Maximum solar energy, maximum loudness, very diverse. Let's go further north. This is Belize. A little less solar energy, and you can hear it already. But still a lot of activity. So let's jump up a little bit further. This is the state of Georgia. Plays a different tune, but it's not as loud. And finally, to my home state of Washington. Western meadowlark. It's almost a poetic of space. Huge contrast with the Amazon. Earth is a solar-powered jukebox, which helps explain why noise pollution is such a global problem. The brightly lit areas are the noisiest places on the planet because the consumption of fossil fuel is really the consumption and release of ancient sunlight. And in the United States, which you can see outlined quite clearly in its energy consumption, there are only 12 places left which have been identified where it's possible to have just the experiences of nature without noise pollution for at least 15 minutes. Our average national park is less than 5 minutes during daylight hours. This is the town of Colstrip, Montana, and we're listening to it right now. This is a recording that I made in 2007. Those 4 large stacks in the background, in terms of acoustic ecology, are large flutes, dumping huge amounts of low-frequency noise into the atmosphere. And understand this, that consumes more than 1,000 square miles because of how far sound and noise travels, more than 1,000 square miles of what would otherwise be just the opportunity to listen to the messages from Earth. Natural silence, the experience of places without noise pollution, was once as common as pure water and pure air, has become an endangered species, and it may slip away to extinction without us even becoming aware of it. We do a lot of talking, and pretty soon it's going to be time for all those other beings to talk to us, and I certainly believe that that's possible. It's a universal language. And some people do so much talking, and we grow up talking, that we think that our ears actually evolved so that we could hear each other speak. That makes total sense, okay? Except if that's true, we'd be the first species on planet Earth to have evolved so isolated from the rest of nature. So let's look at human hearing. What we have here is basically the range of human hearing, low frequencies on the left-hand side, and then we have the high frequencies on the right-hand side. And what's interesting going across here is those are not straight lines. These are equal loudness contours. And that bottom line is our threshold of human hearing. Our ears are tuned like instruments. And that highlighted yellow area shows that we have a peak sensitivity. We are super sensitive to everything between 2 kilohertz and 5 kilohertz. Well, that's kind of odd because almost everything I'm saying right now, except the sounds, are way below that. What in our environment neatly fits into 2 to 5 kilohertz. Let's listen. Birdsong. Birdsong. This is a willy wagtail singing on the Australian outback. And Willie sings for a mate and also sings to establish territory. And let's listen to what Willie has to tell us. All the time, he's belting it out here. Yeah. All the time, he's passionately belting it out. Not only is he calling for a mate, establishing territory, but revealing his identity to all potential predators. And I get a message from Willie. Love and risk are inseparable. Thank you, Willie. There is the larger question, what in our ancestors' past would any benefit be to listening to distant birdsong have towards human survival? Okay? Well, imagine yourself now a member of a nomadic tribe. There are 12 of us in the group, men, women, children. The whole reason why we are moving on is because we have run low on provisions. So we've come to a mountain ridge, and we have a choice between 2 valleys. And from one valley, this valley, we hear nothing. There is no information coming in. And from the other valley, we can barely make out birdsong. And if the birds are singing, they are staking territory, there's a natural resource base, there's food, water, and an extended season of prosperity enough to raise young, everything we need to survive. Each one of us, no matter what our age, we are still our ancestors. And we are still on that mountain ridge. And we are still choosing between 2 future valleys. Except the valleys have changed. There's no longer that valley of silence. What we have is the valley. This is Seattle, Washington, where I was a bike messenger. And this is a recording of Seattle. The tremendous noise pollution that area produces. All right? But we also know cultural vitality, people we love. And then in the other valley, we have the music of nature. This is Olympic National Park near my home. And our ears tell us, again, quite clearly, which is the healthier environment. But the answer that we will choose is not really clear. Not to me. I know that I am still evolving. But I do know that we can save our national parks and national areas from noise pollution so that we can receive the messages from nature and bring them back, make them more natural, more habitable. And there is not one place on planet Earth that has been set aside to be an acoustic sanctuary free of all noise pollution. The last message comes from planet Earth itself, the largest being of it all. And the earth is speaking. Yeah, actually, the earth is singing. When the sun rises, all of life raises its voice and is called the Dawn Chorus. And just as the sun has continued to circle the planet, the sunrise phenomenon, since the beginning of time, so does this wave of birdsong as an endless planetary song that continues to evolve and change in composition with the evolution of life itself. And we are going to listen to one 24-hour cycle reduced to a little over a minute. We begin on the Australian outback, pass through Asia, then Africa, Europe, and the Americas. The earth is music. But before we come into tune or attempt to, there's only one thing we need to do before we start thinking about how it'll all happen, and that is simply listen. I ask that we be as quiet as we can right now. Can we shut down the air conditioning? Can we open the doors? Is this possible? Thank you. We've had such a busy time talking to each other all the time, having ears that were meant to listen to somebody else, all those other beings. And here we are in the center of it all.